Thank you so much, Tammy. That is our beloved Tammy Briggs. We lovingly call her our Pathways to Peace in-house resident harpist, but she is just so very much more than that. And so we'll be hearing from Tammy later on in our agenda. And so welcome. We are so honored and delighted that you have come through this journey with us. For those of you who haven't been engaged in the 24-hour candlelight vigil, we have the sacred fire, and we have had an opening ceremony that was fabulous yesterday morning, 23 hours ago, which launched our candlelight vigil. So all through the night, many of those who are in the room journeyed with us, with people coming into the room with the sacred fire and Tammy's beautiful harp music, lighting a candle, stating their intention for peace, and holding that sacred space and that energy. It was powerful, it was beautiful, and here we are in this closing ceremony. So in our reflections, in our opening ceremony, we had these incredible people, again, some of whom are on this with us today, speak to the history, the evolution, the accomplishments that have occurred through the 40 years, beginning to kind of talk about where we are today, but just beginning. So today, it's all about where we are today and where we're going in the future, 2025 and beyond. And so the name of our time together today is Co-Creating a World of Peace, Unitive Consciousness and Peace in Action. And so I always tell people that my theory of change has always been that top down and bottom up. In the middle is where we see sustainable change. And so our work at Pathways to Peace has been so deeply evolving into accelerating peace consciousness while really practicing, embodying that peace in action on the ground. And so we have these incredible partners that are with us today. I feel so honored and blessed to have this all-star cast that are going to speak to our co-creation, our purpose, and the vision for our work that's going to take us into the future and create a world at peace. So today we have with us Dr. Joni Carley. We have Dr. Jude Curvin. We have David Gershon. We have Peter Young. We have Stephen Fantel. We have some incredible live music by not only Tammy, our harpist, but we brought in Stephen Wise and are introducing Stephen Wise and Stephen Fantel. And so it's going to be an incredible and inspiring and uplifting time together. And so thank you to those of you in the room that said yes to the call to be here. And so before we begin with our speakers, I'd like to have David Wick as the president of Pathways to Peace to give just a message about the future of Pathways to Peace in our co-creation of peace in our world. David.
Thank you very much. I appreciate this. And wonderful to be here and wonderful to come through this 24 hours together in a beautiful, beautiful way. Those who love peace must learn to organize as effectively as those who love war. That was Dr. Martin Luther King. Moving forward, we have a journey that we're building upon in the last 40 years. And it is incumbent upon us to do all that we can to help our world with greater well-being, with greater peace, with greater evolution. We are in a major evolutionary phase in every level. And there's many evidences of this. What comes to mind to me to think about as we move into the next 40 years is three things. Be bold, be smart, and tell the compelling story. That's essential for us. Being bold in taking the next steps, taking the risks, moving out to be into new possibilities, new territory, opening up new thinking, opening up new ways of sharing, of communicating. Is absolutely essential because we're taking new directions. The world is calling for it, and we are in a position to be able to make major contributions. Be smart. What are the tools that we have? What are the not taking old paths? What are the new pathways? What are the new things that are called upon for us to really be effective? But we have to be smart about it. And we can spend a lot of time doing wonderful things, but it doesn't really move the needle. It's time to really move the needle all the more. And telling, well, and also I just had a last night listened to a interview with Brock Pierce, who's the chairman of the Bitcoin Foundation. He said, innovation is a tool of transformation. So where do we innovate? What do we do differently? What do we do effectively? What do we take on that we haven't done before? What are the tools that we have? You can hear some of them today. And also then telling the compelling story. It does nothing more if we tell each other the story. It's really out into the world in the general public in all the different ways that we can. So what are the networks we can work with? What are the vehicles in terms of media? And let's get smarter about that. So using each of those is so important. So we have a couple of examples of what you're going to hear about, examples of being bold and being smart and telling the stories. One is the girl shelter in Guinea. This opportunity came up. We heard there's a real need here. We said yes immediately and took a step into a territory Pathways has never been before. It's been very powerful and setting a whole new precedent for a community. Another is some of the Pathways is deeply involved with Rotary and the Rotary E-Club of World Peace. We're going to be meeting, a number of us here, we're going to be meeting with the incoming president of Rotary International on Monday and help her see about peace building. Actually, it's going to be Peace on Earth 2030 to help see in the new way how Rotary is inclusively peace building and can tell a new story. There's also Peace is the Only Gold with Marilyn King and looking at new possibilities of the tools that we use. He's really taking a deep look into AI, and it's new territory and very effective possibilities, but it's taken as being bold, moving into new territory. So that's what we're about. That's where we're going. So let's say yes, hug each other, and let's go. Thank you.
Thank you, David. It's easy for us to say yes. And so we typically, Pathways to Peace in all of our events begin with a meditation. I am just so honored that instead we are going to begin our sacred time together, which is both sacred, productive, informative. We embody all of those pieces in our work with Pathways to Peace and with these partners who I consider not only colleagues, but friends. So Joni Carley is going to begin our time together with a prayer. I've heard this prayer, knocked my socks off, and I'm so honored and delighted to introduce Dr. Joni Carley.
Such a privilege to be here and celebrate this amazing organization. If you haven't lit a candle, will you join me and light one right now, please? And please pray with me. I know we are all indigenous to Mother Earth and Father Sky. We are all part of the primordial mix of the seen and the unseen that is Gaia. And I know we are all indigenous to the place where only our consciousness can take us. Today, we celebrate that we are all native to the territory of our interbeing. We are all primordial to the place of our interconnectedness with each other and with the rest of Gaia. We celebrate the deep kinship we share with all life. At this moment in time, we stand at a new frontier of the unified field that Rumi invited us to meet him in, the field that's out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing. And may our prayers this day bring new light and greater access to that field. We pray for all the healing we need to open our hearts, our minds, and our souls to the reality of the unity that we share with all beings and with the entire universe. We give thanks for the unitive consciousness that is awakening around the planet, and we give thanks for how that consciousness is guided by indigenous wisdom keepers who teach good ways of living in harmony. We give thanks for the spirit that flows in, of, and through all of Gaia, and we say thank you for the invisible divine spark that is unique in each of us and common to all of us. We say thank you for that primal pulse of God that dances through us as love, creativity, and joy. And we give thanks for the metaphysical powers of purpose and prayer, knowing that coming together in that power is our best hope for a well, happy, and peaceful world. We give thanks for how we magnify that power in this moment by coming together in celebration of an amazing organization and in prayer with one another. We go forward knowing that unity is the truth, unity is the way, knowing that all of us are interdependently co-arising with all else as Gaia unfolds and evolves. We release our prayers into the universe for a just, compassionate, and verdant world. And we give thanks for the coming blessings of a new earth rising. And so it is, blessed be, amen.
So it is. Thank you, Joni. Beautiful, just perfect. Thank you, thank you. In our first planning meeting for our 40th anniversary, we met together as a council with our core partners, many in the room today, and talked about how we wanted to celebrate and honor our 40th anniversary. And what came onto the table was how could we have a jubilant, a joyous celebration, because the planning team came together right after the current conflict erupted in the Middle East. And so the candlelight vigil was the result of that conversation, with a celebration at the beginning and then a commitment, putting our stake in the ground for an intention for peace on the planet. we made a commitment that this time together for our 40th anniversary would be the launch of a year-long campaign to end all conflict and to bring peace to our planet. And so I've invited this amazing musician that I just met, Stephen Wise, to play a very meaningful song for us that embraces that importance to honor, to celebrate peace, and yet to acknowledge and honor the conflict that is so present, the suffering that is so present to so many. And the song that Stephen is going to both play and sing is called Peace in the Middle East. Stephen?
Greetings.
Standing by the pyramids, across the Nile to Cairo, staring towards the skies in Sinai. Bright flashes of light, sounds like thunder, children running, crying in the night. I dream of the day the world lays down their arms, living in peace like the story should be told. No longer hating your neighbor's religion, and when greed for power's it's time for peace in the Middle East. Oh yeah, gotta pass it on. Time for peace all over the world. Iraq and Iran, down to Israel. I saw clouds of hate and confusion, causing misery and so much heartache. Yeah, hold on to love, love, love. Each time the innocent falls, oh mother, father, is what you're trying to show us all. In every city, where darkness does appear, we've got to hold on to the light and not give in to fear. It's time for peace, peace in the Middle East. Oh yeah, gotta pass it on. Time for peace all over the world. Oh. It's time for peace. Peace in the Middle East. Oh, yeah. Time for peace. It's time for peace all over the world. Yeah, yeah. Peace on earth starts inside of you and me. Yeah. Time for peace all over the world. I release all feelings of hate, anger, and resentment until there is only love. Only love. Only love. Only love. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Eloheinu Allahu Echad.
Stephen, that was incredible, just incredible. Thank you so very much. And that song for me just really reminds us about the importance of being compassionate, acknowledging the suffering while holding that energy of peace, that energy of joy, that energy of love, because it is that will heal our world. And so thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Stephen, I would encourage you to put your information in the chat if people would like to get your music. I know they can get it from a variety of sources, but if you would put your information in the chat, I have a sense that many of us will be reaching out to get your music. Thank you.
You so much. Give thanks for this opportunity.
And thank you for the work you're doing in the world for peace. Thank you. So our next speaker is going to be my friend Joni Carley. And Joni is the founder and the leader / facilitator, perhaps, of the UN Unitive Cluster. And I tasked all of our speakers to kind of speak to the theme of our purpose and our vision for our work 2025 and beyond, and how we can work together to bring peace to our planet. And so, Joni, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Tez. You mentioned earlier peace consciousness in your intro, and that's the bottom line. And as far as working forward in 2025, that's where we've got to get it right in the realm of consciousness, because consciousness is causal. Everything happens in the domain of consciousness before it happens out there in the world. And so we must attend to that domain. And yet so often we relegate that as to airy-fairy, to new agey, to non-concrete. We have to get right to the projects and do the stuff and make real things happen. And we step over this primal ingredient of consciousness. And Pathways to Peace has named and claimed that territory from the beginning. They continue to do that. And that is maybe the biggest breakthrough. And on top of all the amazing accomplishments over all these years, I hold that that's probably the most profound, because there are many of us who have been tiptoeing around the UN for all of our careers, using code words, using, only making sure we say it to the right people. And people who are inside the UN on UN tracks were afraid they could lose their career tracks for saying the wrong thing on an elevator that somebody could overhear, getting into this territory of consciousness and the metaphysics that matter so much. Metaphysics are the study of causality. And so we're getting to the causal realm here. And so 16 NGOs who are accredited by the United Nations, thanks to Tez's co-leadership in this, came together to say, no more will we pussyfoot around this conversation. We are going to hold it front and center in the place that it so needs to be. And to recognize that peace isn't something you can do one project at a time. It's the outcome of cultures that recognize that they are interdependently co-arising with everyone and everything else on the planet and with the planet itself. And even though so many of us and many people within the UN are fully on board with those concepts, it's still really hard to bring them forward anywhere in the culture. It's getting easier and easier because we really truly have stepped over the line into a new paradigm. But still, there's that old conditioning that says, this stuff is too fluffy. I can't bring it up here. It's not serious stuff. And so these UN colleagues have said, this is it. Times have changed, and we are going to apply to the United Nations to form a cluster under the NGO major group. And so I believe, I don't have evidence for this, but I believe it's probably the first time ever the UN has said yes to an organization that used the word love and consciousness in their application. And so when we got the yes back exactly a year ago this month, we were officially the Unitive Cluster of the United Nations. And we really formed around transforming the UN around unitive consciousness. Jude Currivan is on this call. She's done she is the mother of this unitive work. And we've decided that this new narrative that I'm sure Jude will talk about in a bit, that replaces the old separation-based narrative, that provides a new context for UN interventions. And because everything is integrated and intersectional and indivisible and interlinked with all else. And so are all the Sustainable Development Goals. And so the Unitive Cluster is saying the Sustainable Development Goals are usually depicted as 17 blocks of color. And the Unitive Cluster is saying, we're going to work in the white spaces in between all those blocks. We're going to work in the background that those blocks sit on. We're going to work on how they weave together, just as all of us do with all of the rest of life on the planet. So the Unitive Cluster wants to propagate that consciousness in the UN and to recognize that this consciousness can transcend among and across and between and around the profound diversity of the human family. What is really important is that so much is founded on fragmentation. We'll deal with water over here. We'll deal with poverty over there. Well, and that's not going to work because we're one. And so the cluster said, we're going to transcend that fragmentation. It's so inherent in the worldview, in the paradigm that we were transitioning out of, that division and competition and all the way to the point of global warfare are considered norms. We're watching them on TV like they're normal. Well, the Unitive Cluster is saying no, that we're setting the basis for a new norm. We're setting a scientifically based, spiritually anchored, and rooted in UN documents platform for saying that unity is not merely some utopian aspiration that maybe someday, if we're really lucky and work really hard, we might get to. Unity is the existential reality of our interdependent, interlinked world. And so I'll just tell you some of the principles that are guiding this cluster's work. They are that the cosmological, physiological, biological, environmental, and spiritual truth of unity is what's so. That unity is a matter of consciousness, that Gaia The earth is a living entity, that economic and social transformation must be based on love, compassion, and human rights, and that we have to think in terms of whole systems, and that we support the UN in upholding the principle of unity. We want to bring the united back into the United Nations in a profoundly new way, in a way that lights the world. And so I appreciate Pathways to Peace has laid the groundwork long before we ever even dreamed of a unitive cluster, that it laid the groundwork long before we even Jude brought this work forward. Pathways to Peace has been walking this talk. And now we come together with this organization, with so many organizations. These, the 16 that signed on to creating this cluster are growing. The consciousness that we bring into UN meetings, into UN papers, to UN processes, to UN events, it's growing, it's taking seed, it's resonating. There's so many people who say, gee, I've always kind of thought this when I bring this up in meetings, which you couldn't have done even a few years ago. The times have really changed. And now still some people do think it's a little flaky still, but more and more people are saying, hey, I really always thought this, but I couldn't say it because my organization or the history or what's expected. Or they're saying, I kind of thought this, but I didn't have the words. I'm so glad to hear it. And what I'm seeing is relief from UN colleagues. That now there's space. Now we can have this conversation about the metaphysical components of peacemaking. And so I ask each one of you that are listening, dare to go there. Dare to claim that territory. Create the courage. And if you don't feel the courage, go ahead and let those words come out anyway, because this 24 hours and this celebration is testimony that the time has arrived and that we can say these things, we can hold these things, we can know these things. And in doing that, that is the way to peace. That is the pathway to peace. That is the individual connection to peace, is to open that up in your own consciousness and allow that to be so in your presence in the world. Thank you,
And so
Pathways to
it
Peace.
is. And so it is, dear Joni. And we are so delighted to be working in leadership with you and with the UN cluster. And so I want to say that I'm really feeling the presence of our founder, Avon Madison. And so Avon is fully engaged on board and supporting us being bolder about what we know to be true about our oneness, our unitive consciousness that is accelerating. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So the participants in the room and those who may be viewing this later or elsewhere, you're going to hear some common themes. That's purposeful because Pathways to Peace has been very strategic about where we put our energy. Again, thinking unitive consciousness and peace in action on the ground. And so this next presenter is David Gershon, who is the founder of Peace on Earth by 2030. And I met David at a conference of very high-level global leaders. And there was this tittering going on about, have you heard about David Gershon's new Peace on Earth by 2030? And immediately my heart felt called into that work. So before I got into the detail of the metrics that I love, the structure, David's credibility, which I knew a little bit about, and all of the beta testing and the results, I was already saying, take us, we need to be working with you. So I give the floor to you, David. Peace on Earth by 2030.
Yes, thank you. And David, thank you for this beautiful work you've done over 40 years. I was thinking about the foundation or the founding of Pathways to Peace in 1983. when Avon and David, I assume you were part of that sort of genesis moment. So let me take you back to 1983. We'll take you into 2023 in a minute, but let me take you back to 1983 for a moment. There was a movie that ABC television broadcast called The Day After. I don't know if any of you have seen this movie, but it was a film about a TV program about essentially the nuclear destruction of humanity through nuclear war. This was the time when we were in mutually assured destruction mode. Our best thinking is we have to actually have enough of a threat so that people will not use these incredible means of destruction, weapons of mass destruction. And it was exactly in that time that the first Earth run was getting born. So in some ways, it didn't manifest for 3 more years, but that genesis moment of 1983 was also the genesis. And there were other things that got created then because there was such a strong reaction in the sort of consciousness of humanity, if you will. Joni, thank you for affirming that that's the source of how we create reality, and or whatever it is that we're creating that's not good for the world, including war and or peace. And so a lot of things tried to happen, including the UN concluding that the International Year of Peace needed to be 1986. So the stage was getting set for something happening in the world bigger than the problem. And I had been trying to do this, passing the torch of peace around the world since 1976, unsuccessfully, I might add. I could not convince the world that this was something that could happen, really. But it felt like the timing was right then. And so we brought this idea forward. I went to my wife, Gail Straub, my beloved. I said, Gail, do you know anyone who lives in a foreign country? She said, no. Well, that was the beginning, a wing and a prayer, and a lot of intention. And in 1986, 1 billion people witnessed a torch of peace being carried around the world by some 25 million people in 45 heads of state celebrating and honoring it, including the President of the United States and Russia, China, the Pope, among others. The impossible became possible. And at that founding meeting, when we were pulling together those crazy ones who were willing to believe that something like this could happen, who showed up but Avon Madison? He came out to Phoenicia, New York, where we're having this meeting at a place called the Pathwork Center, among other people that we had gathered from all over the world, from 16 regions of the world. And we decided we're going to make this happen. We didn't have any money. We didn't have much, actually, other than a dream. And we did have Avon. That was true. And that was a big one, having Avon Madison there. In any event, wherever the torch of peace went in 1986, all wars stopped. The world was united as one. We got a taste of a new reality. And I would say, again, Joni, to your point, it really was using consciousness through archetypal symbols of a torch and running and relaying peace around the world that engaged humanity so profoundly. And it was the only thing going on that was actually what we would call positive peace now, because most of it was anti-war. So there wasn't a vision of what we wanted. There was just a vision of what we didn't want. And I remember getting this amazing letter from President Reagan, who we had been attempting to get as a partner because we knew if we got him, we were halfway there. It was this beautiful letter. And it was affirming all these values and all this possibility. So it was top down, meets bottom up, to your point, Tess. We met somewhere in the middle. And then Gorbachev wrote a beautiful letter and affirmed it in Russia, and it took off. The president of China. And before we knew it, we were having a competition among world leaders who could write more inspiring thoughts about the future of humanity. And then if they didn't do that, whenever I met with them, I would ask them what their vision was for peace on earth. So it was an adventure. I'll add one more thought, and then we'll take us into the future. While we were working in the UN system, I might add, we were working in UNICEF offices. They'd given us a whole floor to organize this as one of our partners. So we had introduced this idea into the UN system then, and it was quite well received. Both out of joy and desperation, because there wasn't anything out there that was getting any traction other than Reagan saying, well, maybe we need someone coming from an extraterrestrial place so that we can unite, because that's the best we've got. I mean, that's our best thinking as a species at that moment in time. But we got a call from some people working with the Hopi Nation, and they said, we would like to deliver the Hopi prophecy that we've been told we have to deliver to the Great Hall of Micah at a time of great darkness. And we've been unsuccessful in delivering that Hopi prophecy. And we've been told we have 4 times to deliver it. And if we don't succeed after the 4th time, we'll have 1,000 years of war. But if we do succeed, this is the best-selling argument I've ever heard in my whole life, we will have 1,000 years of peace. So I said, of course, you had me at, we'd like to speak at the United Nations. And so we had a beautiful sunrise ceremony where Grandmother Caroline shared her vision and the Hopi prophecy that they've been carrying for over 1,000 years through oral transmission from one generation to the next. And she said the torch of peace would begin a journey of 1,000 years of peace as it traversed the world. And you need to be a keeper of that dream, which I agreed to and have been doing since. She said one more thing. She said, you have to be aware that you have to understand how to interpret the signs, because they're going to look exactly different than what it looks like to the world. When you see war, what you're seeing is an antibody in the sort of body politic getting generated, as we're seeing right now. There's never been a stronger demand and insight into peace on earth as there is at this moment. And there was then as well, but not quite at the level now. And so I keep seeing something very different than the rest of the world tends to see as it engages in the media. So fast forward in 2018, where am I now? 2018, I realized it was time to take this to the next level, and I distilled all the learnings from the first Earth Run into 7 strategies that then got further refined into 7 actions, and that got further refined into 7 frequencies. And my dear friend Tammy and I have had a great adventure creating meditations with this beautiful harp music around those 7 frequencies. Joni, you've been on so many of those calls, adding your amazing intention and beautiful energy to what we're building. And so we launched this idea to see if we get any traction, to see if we could actually get people to adopt these new behaviors as well as the consciousness, and see if we could actually build a movement called Peace on Earth by 2030 and set a intention in the world consciousness of a time-specific moment to achieve something, rather than peace on earth as just an aspiration at large. And we learned a big thing about galvanizing will, which is that you need a specific moment in time to do that. And so 2030 has now become a rallying cry for many people. I knew when we were successful when everyone is now saying, why do we have to wait till 2030? So we're on a good track when that's the new conversation. And the answer is we don't. We can get there sooner if enough people say yes, and we're on that path. And one of those partners, once again, is Pathways to Peace. In fact, you are in on the earliest stage, because we were gathering people at the Holo movement in March of this year. And who was the very first person to reach out to me? The first, following in Avon's, footsteps. It was Tess. So there is this profound and deep karma and even dharma between Pathways to Peace and this mission of 1,000 years of peace. Who better than Pathways to Peace to understand the pathways to peace? So affirmation from you, Tess, and you, David, is incredible for me. It's one thing to be a faith keeper and a visionary. It's another to have people respond to that so positively and so generously. And then you introduced us to the Rotary community, who has stepped forward so beautifully, so beautifully. And again, I thank all the Rotarians that are here and all those that are now saying yes to this. And it goes on. We have over 50 partners now, and including the African Union, who has said on behalf of the continent of Africa, we'd like Africa to be the first continent to be creating peace on earth by 2030. So the future is bright at the same time that it looks so dark. It's just a matter of where you focus one's intention. If your daily job is creating peace on earth every day, and everyone you speak to responds so enthusiastically, which is the case with these 50 partners, it's quite an amazing day job to have, I might add. Let me add a couple more thoughts and then I'll pass the torch. So over these 5 years, we have engaged some 6,500 people in our beta testing across 13 countries. And they've taken 35,000 peace actions, concrete peace actions, measurable peace actions across the 7 action areas. And each of those peace actions, based on our research, through a ripple effect, influences 35 people. So we've influenced almost 9 million people, and this is just the beta. Our goal by 2030 is to have 40 million people have played the game and become what we call dream keepers, who hold the intention that peace on earth by 2030 is possible and are living it in their lives by the 7 practices that they integrate into their daily life. And the other goal is to have 10,000 peace on earth zones. There are 10,000 cities, and we wish to have one at the heart of every city. And at the heart of every peace on earth zone, we want to have a peace sanctuary. And at the heart of every peace sanctuary, we want to have a peace pole. I don't know if Fumi's still here. I can't see her at the moment, but if you are not here, Fumi, we honor you for the beautiful work you've done over the years to hold the intention. And we do see a peace pole behind Joni, and there may be others somewhere that I'm not seeing. So we build a peace sanctuary at the heart of every peace on earth zone, which is the practice of these 7 unitive principles and behaviors. Shout out to you, Jude. So everyone has different pieces of the puzzle. Part of our joy is figuring out how the puzzle gets put together. And once again, we are partnered with Pathways to Peace. And so we have a big plan. I speak to David and Tess mostly every week, sometimes a couple of times a week. So you guys are the heart of all this craziness to create peace on earth by 2030. So bless you all for all that you're all doing in your different ways. And thank you for Pathways to Peace. Thank you, Avon. Thank you, David. Thank you, Tess. And all the people that are part of Pathways to Peace for the beautiful work you've done over these 40 years. Who would have known that we're going to create peace on earth by 2030 when we started in 1983 together? So many blessings.
Yes. Thank you, David. And, other than the Heart's Calling, which was really powerful, Peace on Earth by 2030 checks all the boxes for us. In addition to everything you've said, Pathways to Peace always works locally and globally. And Peace on Earth by 2030 is the perfect example of how to do that. So with unity of consciousness on the top and those zones within those communities that really create peace in action.
I speak just
So,
one moment to that and invoke David again. So Rotary Club has 46,000 clubs. So the conversation we're having with the incoming president of Rotary International is about how we activate those clubs to create peace on earth zones. And Rotary itself, with the impetus of Pathways to Peace, could actually be a game changer. So
yes.
wish us well, by the way, in this call on Monday. It could be a big one for humanity. If it goes well. I think it'll go well.
Yes, thank you, David. And so it looks like we're getting a little long, so I'll try to keep us going a little bit tighter. But thank you, thank you, thank you. This has been amazing. And so next to be able to speak, she has already been mentioned as kind of the mother of unity of consciousness. And of course, I have told Jude, she is one of the people that in my life that is so beloved to me. And that I said when we first met and connected, that I'd want to grow up to be Jude Curvin if I wasn't already much older than she is. So, but she is an incredible cosmologist who has her arms around what it takes for us to truly embrace and embody and practice unity of consciousness. So, Dr. Jude Curvin, I'm so honored and delighted that you're here. I give the floor to you.
Thank you, Tess, and thank you for everyone. This has been, I don't know if you could see it, but I've been crying for most of this gathering with joy and gratitude to all of you. But I'd just like to begin, and I won't take, I know I should have 8 minutes, whatever it takes. But I remember that just before COVID came into all of our lives, in January of 2020, I was asked to be a keynote speaker for the Rotary International Global Peace Gathering in California. And it was a room full of Rotary participants. And I stood up and I talked about unity of consciousness. And my theme was how unity of consciousness, understanding it, experiencing, embodying it, could help us heal from our dis-ease of separation, could help us into a homecoming to remember who we really are, which, as Joni said, where unity isn't an aspiration, but our existential reality. And so I spoke about moving from pieces to peace. And I was in the ladies' toilet afterwards, and people were coming up to me and crying on my shoulder with gratitude for this new story, as David said, this new story of wholeness. And yet one lady came up and said, "How did you get in here?" On the basis that, how on earth did this message come forward? But it did, and it is. And as Joni also said, now is the time. Now is our threshold to step into what I consider to be the invitation of the evolutionary impulse of our entire universe and planetary home. And so to take a step back those 40 years with enormous gratitude to Avon and David and Tez and all the wonderful community at Pathways to Peace. When I first heard Avon's name, it spoke deeply to me because in ancient English, Avon means river. So when I heard about the Pathways to Peace, I saw this as a river and a gathering river of tributaries that had left its highlands, its springs, its origins, and was moving inexorably down the mountain, into the plain and towards the ocean. And I see us now as a river of consciousness, of unity consciousness and conscious intention for our homecoming to the great ocean of unity, where unity isn't uniformity, it's radical diversity. And beyond that, for me, and I know for many of us, it goes beyond diversity and even beyond inclusion to a remembering of unity in belonging. Because when we know we belong, we don't need an invitation to the party. We're all party folks because we all belong to a universe that not with the old story that is a dead universe without meaning, bereft of purpose, which has somehow evolved over the last 13.8 billion years from simplicity to ever greater levels of complexity and individual to self-awareness that began in chaos, in a big bang. We now know, and we have the evidence at all scales of existence across many, many different fields of research, that is turning that old paradigm of materialism and separation on its head. And instead of which, a new and unitive narrative is emergent at all scales and the wholeness of its being. It's telling us a new story. It's telling us that our universe began all those billions of years ago, yes, but not as a big bang. It was minute, but as the first moment of an incredibly fine-tuned, exquisitely ordered, and innately meaningful and purposeful and ongoing big breath. And so as space has expanded and time has flowed forward ever since, our universe has undertaken this incredible journey from simplicity to complexity. But its individuated self-awareness, as embodied not only within us, but within its entirety at all scales of its story, is inviting us to remember that we are indeed microcosmic co-creators of its reality. And so mind and consciousness aren't what we have, they literally are what we and the whole world are. And with that innate meaning and inherent evolutionary purpose, what David and Joni and David W. and Stephen and Tammy and Bella and everyone, and Tez, everyone who I can see on my screen and many, many more, we're coming together to link up and lift up now, able to be underpinned and framed, grounded in this emergent and unitive narrative that can support and empower and inspire transformational change in the world and offer us authentic hope. Because what it does, it brings leading edge science and all the evidence together with universal wisdom teachings into this integrative, holistic, multidimensional wonder that is our world, that is the whole world. So I just wanted to say a few more things on this confluence that Avon was so inspirationally at the very genesis of 40 years ago, because it was around that time, as David said, with the first wonderful work that he did around the world, with a torch that he inspired to travel, is that another great pioneer called David Bohm was also perceiving what we now call the holographic universe, the cosmic hologram that is the foundational understanding of the unitive narrative. And he came up with a term called the hollow movement. And he saw that as an eventual linking up and lifting up of circles on circles on circles of unitive intention within humanity. But he was actually basing that perception on a universe that is itself a hollow movement and has been for the entirety of its evolutionary journey to now. So 40 years on, here we are at an incredible threshold of opportunity, and one in which, as David Wicks said at the beginning, you know, you talked about being smart, you talked about innovation. Well, maybe we can add innovation to that, because this is the innovation of our remembering our wholeness, that we can then bring into the doing of the innovation of our ways forward. And you did also speak of a new story. This is not even just a new story, but beneath stories are narratives. And our narratives shapes our worldview, and our worldviews drive our behaviors. And in a worldview of separation, yes, conflicts are natural behaviors. But in a worldview of wholeness, empowered and underpinned by unitive narrative, then peace is not just our heritage as microcosmic co-creators of a living and loving universe. It is our cosmic destiny, it seems to me, to step into, because only in peace, only in the healing through peace and our remembered wholeness can we consciously evolve. And I was asked to speak about a coherence council that's been recently set up to serve this impulse, to serve and attune and align with all that is moving forward now. And who we are as a trans-organization, co-laboratory, experimental, learning to learn together in ever greater wholeness, in service to this unitive impulse, and to help provide guidance, resources, and support to leaders, organizations, movements, and communities for the good of the whole. Because through coherence, the Council embodies and facilitates unitive awareness and unitive action, wholeness in action, that empowers humanity's conscious evolution. I would go further, empowers our conscious revolution, our conscious we-volution. That is our threshold. It seems to me this is the invitation of our whole universe and our beloved planetary home to become co-evolutionary partners in this great endeavor and evolutionary journey going forwards. Tez, you're on mute, my love.
I thought I clicked that. It happens at least once in every event. Jude, thank you, thank you, thank you. That was incredible. And I am just so privileged to be a part of that Coherence Council with you, with Julie Krull, with Bob Atkinson. And of course, we will be expanding. So thank you, thank you, thank you for everything you are, that you do, and your whole being. Thank you.
Thank you, Tess. Bless you.
Bless
And
you.
also we have Teresa Collins on our...
Yes, Teresa. Yes, Teresa. So thank you. So we're going to move on now. I'm just so excited that we can take you to one of our projects. We have many. One of our projects that is Peace in Action on the ground. And so just a little story that when Peter Young of Hubcast Media was recording the story of the girls' shelter in Guinea. The girls' shelter is for girls who are brave and say no to female genital mutilation and are homeless as a result. David mentioned this in the beginning of our time, and we felt called to respond by partnering with these incredible people in Guinea to create the girls' shelter. So we were telling that story, again about story, and Peter was recording, and Peter from Hubcast Media got so excited. Afterwards, he said, let's get together and make something happen with the girls' shelter in Guinea. And so it began. And so, Peter, I know you could take a lot of time. I hope we can squeeze a little bit and be efficient in our time. But talk to us about the future of the girls' shelter in Guinea and the partnership with Hubcast Media.
Absolutely, and welcome to Rwanda. We're here out at our studios in, where are we? Kigali, that's where we are. And wow, I tell you, talk about boots on the ground. We're out here doing the things that Pathway to Peace allow us to do. And as Hezekiah said, when we talked during Power of Women and I heard what they were doing in Guinea, I said, we can help, we can get better, we can be there, and we want to be involved with all the initiatives. Hubcast Media is for those who've worked with us or known us. We've been really engaged in the peace movement through Unity Earth, Ben Bullard. We've done a lot of the shows that you probably all attended, but for us, it is the most important when we get out in the field and we really make change in communities that we work with. So here I am in our studio in Rwanda. We got a lot of stuff going on here. I've got a lot of people around here actually. And I wanted to take just a quick moment to show all the people. It's a Saturday night. We're a collective hub here. So we have people that are producing videos, recording music. And in fact, it's been an amazing week since I've been here. I just came from Dubai, working with Ben during the convergence in with the COP28, and I'm now over here. Unfortunately, things are very dynamic in Africa. I was supposed to go to Guinea directly, but unfortunately, just because of circumstances there politically, I had to reroute my route to come to Rwanda. But to be in preparation for what we're excited about, which is bringing Kismet from Guinea and the girls' shelter to come to our studios here to get trained and get educated. And I brought equipment from North America with me that he's going back to Guinea to start the programs that we've started here. And in fact, this is our 1-year anniversary coming up on the 16th. So I'll put out an announcement, and we'd love you guys to join us on the 16th as we celebrate our 1-year birthday is at our Heart Arts Hub here. So I'm in the Azeri's Arts and Media Hub, which is our partner. And in fact, Azeri stands for confidence. And confidence is Africa is what we are all about, creating confidence through people, community. Like Hezekiah said, bravery is the reason why the girls found the shelter. They want to create change. And we're out here to give them the tools, give them the voice, and give them the ability to go and make a better life. And in fact, I want to introduce you to a good partner of mine. This is Ezra Kozera. Come on in, Ezra. Ezra is actually the founder of Azeri. Believe it or not, he's my neighbor in Canada, but he spends about 8 months a year in Africa, educating, training, producing, and creating amazing people and talents. And in fact, a huge respected industry leader in Rwanda. So Ezra and I have a commitment to take the Azeri model, the community model, the hub model, and take it around Africa to support every community that happens out here. So I'm going to keep this really short, Hezekiah, in all respect. We'll show you a lot of stuff come the 16th to become join us. We'll make sure that all the advertising is out there. Do you know where to find it? I'm going to try something. I'm going to unmute my computer. If you look in the corner, our other video, that is the actual dome of Rwanda. And actually, if you pull back, Dan, you'll see. Go ahead, pull back, Dan. Bring that back down. Where did it go here? Right there. So I'm going to play a couple of videos very quickly and closing up of the content that's come out of this facility, because I am so proud of what we've created here over the last year. So I'm going to take a quick moment. Hopefully audio works, because it's been a crazy night tonight, but here's a couple ideas and I'm gonna mute my audio, but check this thing out. I'll be right back. And I realize I have to be unmute on the other channel. Actually, Hezekiah, if you could unmute the Hubcast channel for me, or give me co-hosts. Sorry about that.
Becky, could you make co-hosts?
Yes, sorry, I did it before, but I think they left, but there you go.
Yeah, I came up. All right, Wizzy, show us the videos. Is the videos there?
The
We don't
video is
have
there, but
sound.
the audio is not going.
Okay,
And
one
no
second.
sound.
Wizzy, I'm going to show the videos. Those are the pictures. Let's show the videos. Thanks very much.
So they can do a screen share.
You guys hearing that?
The sound isn't coming through, Peter, correctly. We have some sound, but it's broken up.
No problem, guys. Well, what I'll do is we'll save this. My apologies that we have a little connection issue between that. And we'll mute that. Like everything live, there's always something, isn't there? So but we'll be back on the 16th. You're gonna see a lot of performances, you're gonna see a lot of people. Thank you so much, Hezekiah and David. And the Peace Organization, Pathways to Peace, is an honor. I spent a lot of time with Ambassador Musi in Dubai, and his commitment to what we're doing here in the support of what Pathways to Peace represents. He's going to help pave the path for us to build this throughout all of East Africa, West Africa, South, Guinea. We're going everywhere. We're going to be everywhere. And David, this is how we're going to create these peace hubs. This is how we're going to do it. We're going to build it around community. So stay tuned, guys. And thank you so much for this time. And come join us on the 16th, and we'll show you really what it's all about out here. But thank you so much, Hezekiah.
Yes, thank you, Peter. And would you put the information about how they can link into the celebration on the 16th, put it in the chat? That would be wonderful.
I will make sure we're literally setting that up right now. So I will make sure everybody gets all that information. And again, thank you so much for allowing me to speak in this a very important day. I'm very honored to be part of the celebration. So thank you, Hezekiah, and thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Peter. And so what Hubcast Media has done in Rwanda is what Peter and Hubcast Media want to bring, is a broadcast station to Guinea, catalyzed by the Girls' Shelter. And our partners in Guinea have already taken it a step further and said, but then the next step should be a technical institute for girls. So we're running as fast as we can with this beautiful, loving and heartfelt vision in Guinea. So thank you to all of you who have been in support of this from the very beginning. Thank you. And so one of our challenges with our peace building work that was really evident to us in our work with Guinea has been access to the internet. There was zero connectivity in Guinea. So all of our work with Guinea, both the peace education training as well as the shelter, and what has evolved since then has been over WhatsApp with very poor reception there. And so this next presenter is Stephen Fantle, and he has created an answer, a solution to that problem of not having connectivity in the far reaches of our world. So when I heard about it, I wanted to fall to my knees and just say thank you, because this allows us to reach further into those far corners and to bring peace to the world. So I'm going to turn the floor over to you, Stephen.
Thank you so much. It's really an honor to be here with you all. It was about 15 years ago when Avon first asked me to help Pathways to Peace and Culture of Peace Initiative with utilizing their technology a little bit more robustly to help get the narrative for peace out into the world. And that's always been something that I wanted to do. And this was where I could be of assistance. speaking with Ava, we both agreed that there is only a singular consciousness. And that's simply the truth. So we're going to evolve to that no matter what, because there's nowhere else to go. But how long will that take? How much pain do people need to go through before the ignorance is moved through and truth is understood? So getting that narrative out there was what was so important. It took about a year or so later, after working with Pathways, that we moved even more forward in getting this message out there, and with the creation of the Peace Day Global Broadcast. And it was only through AVEN and Culture of Peace Initiative and the Pathways to Peace that there were enough people and organizations around the world to participate in broadcasting for 48 hours from all these different locations. Of course, we even, especially back then, had the problem that we just experienced a little bit with the sound, that connectivity is in the way. There are so many different places where there is not that access to information. And if we're going to build unitive, collective consciousness, then we need to be able to bring everybody into the fold. We need to be able to bring the indigenous communities and those who have been left behind by the digital divide, and be able to come together and share in peaceful consciousness versus what seems to be the alternative and more in the forefront, particularly with the use of technology. I really have thought for a long time that as we're in this transition from an industrial age model into the information age model, that we can either leverage technology for the better, or we can leave it as it is up to people, and instead we're going to make people's consciousness less intelligent, less peaceful, less coherent with one another. So for me, it's always been about leveraging technology towards greater consciousness and peace. And in those travels, I've met a variety of people. One is a chief of a First Nations tribe out of Canada, up near Penticton. And he is just a brilliant technologist, right? The technologists come from every different type of culture and way of life. And his dream was to bring connectivity to the reservations. That impetus has resulted in some very unique new technology that will allow us to bring greater connectivity to the planet cleanly. And the name that was put to this in order specifically to impart that consciousness was the brand. It's called Love. I've got a little egg-looking thing here. We call this a Love Pod. And this is the next innovation in communication. In the world today, you have things like MiFi or Wi-Fi, little devices that can connect to 4G networks like Peter was just doing most likely. But you also have direct to satellite. And satellite is extremely expensive. So what was needed was some kind of hybrid that would allow you to utilize the quickest, fastest signal available to you, and only when it was necessary to bounce up to a satellite to go and utilize that. And that's exactly what this little device does. We have larger ones as well that cover actually a 30-mile radius range, which can go into places that need connectivity. This little tiny one only works about 300 to 500 feet. You can connect 5 devices to it: your phone, the computer, your TV, watch, car, anything that has a Wi-Fi or a Bluetooth enabling device. So this allows now connectivity almost anywhere. Right now, it is mainly in the United States and Canada. However, in March of 2024, it will be covering Africa as well, with a large rollout to that area as this new non-5G technology becomes available to people. And it's quite interesting. There's a whole project called Love with a variety of people, and it's written directly. The mission statement is the completion of peace. That is the written statement. This was long before David Wick woke up and said, oh, I need to call Stephen and see what's going on. This is what we plan to do. This is the purpose of this technology, is to bring people's consciousness together in ways that are positive, to share cultural narrative around the world, and to bring people together in mass meditations, in the sharing of music, the sharing of culture, and for educational access and telehealth access, and all of these things that allow people to live better lives, to live with more love, literally, because that's the basis of peace. That's how you get to a peace consciousness from this subtler level of the overarching consciousness that is everything. Aham Brahmasi. So I want to thank you all very much for allowing me to continue my journey with Pathways to Peace that started 15 years ago with Avon. And like Tez mentioned, I can feel Avon here with us, and send her wonderful blessings for continuing to shower her amazing angelic energy upon all of us. I'm looking forward to the next 40 years and helping David get us to peace by 2030. That would just be wonderful. So
Perfect.
thank you so very much.
Thank you, Stephen. And will you also put your information in the chat? And thanks to Stephen's generosity, we sent 3 love pods to Guinea that should be arriving within the next few days. So we will have connectivity in Guinea, which is just truly an answer to prayer. And we
you
also
may have to wait till March, but we're going to give it a go before the signal is triangulated out there, because you're going to need satellite in Guinea.
Yes, yes. And so we'll see. We'll see how soon, but we're ready. But we're ready. And we had no opportunity before this. So thank you, Stephen. And yeah, thank you. And Pathways to Peace is going to be one of the delighted distributors of the Love Pods. So if you would like to reach out to me, to us, David and I, about that to learn more, we have an information session coming up, I think, that you could be invited to. And it's not only, this is just an aside, for us it's about the tool for peace building, but it's also delightfully a fundraising tool for nonprofit organizations supporting peace. So it's the whole deal. Thank you, Stephen. So take a deep breath. We're winding down. And because of, Pathways to Peace has many programs. We have our peace education program. We do expansive work with youth. We have our, Exceptional Women of Peace Awards. We have our Wisdom Keepers, capturing the wisdom of the elders. We have our nuclear disarmament project in Albania. We're doing many things, but these were the things that we thought would give you a taste of how we see the future rolling out. And so because my dear colleague, Tammy Briggs, is so much more than our harpist, even though she's an incredible harpist, she is woven into so much of what Pathways to Peace is about. So I'm going to do a brief closing, and then I'm going to turn it over to Tammy for her reflections about the future of Pathways to Peace. And then she'll close the room with once again playing that incredible harp. And so I want to just step back a moment and just deeply, deeply thank and bow to each of our incredible presenters. You inspire us to keep on keeping on and to keep that vision of peace alive. And so I so deeply appreciate you, love you, and can't wait to continue our work together into the future. Yes, the foundation that Avon and Joni and Marilyn and David and so many others put in place, we are so well positioned to move into the next evolution of peace on our planet. And so it is. Also, before I leave, I want to recognize Becky Suzik, who has done all of the technology stuff. She's incredible. In addition to being what we call our technology queen, especially with Zoom. She's a Zoomologist, I think. She also is a reverend and interfaith minister in practice. So she has it all. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Becky, for everything you do for us. And then also the sacred fire that we've been enjoying over the last now 25 hours is a gift to us from the Awana Collectiva, which is an indigenous women's group who are living in and protecting the rainforests. And so we just thank them for the gift of the sacred fire, which has carried us through our time together. So with that, and reminding all of you that you are a pathway to peace, regardless of where you've been, regardless of what you do, you are a pathway to peace. And let's make Peace Day every day. Tammy?
Wonderful, Tez. Thank you. I feel a little choked up. This has just been so moving and inspirational. And I found that to be true with the opening ceremony yesterday as well. So I think it's really interesting that we bookended these 24, 25 hours together in beautiful sacred space. Yesterday afternoon, Central Time, I was one of the sacred stewards for the vigil, and I had these words come to me as the intention that I would like to put out into the field for Pathways to Peace's future. My intention is Pathways to Peace thrives for another 40 years. May Pathways to Peace's work always contribute to the energy of love, peace, and light. May its network of connections keep expanding and touching many hearts to create peace in the world and to anchor in the new earth. And just ever so briefly, I want to share a little bit about my history with Pathways to Peace. Almost 3 years ago to the day, Erica, who I think had to leave, Erica called me and said, you have to connect with the executive director, Tez Gabriel of Pathways to Peace, because she wants to invite you to play the harp for the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women. Well, let me tell you, there is no greater dream for a harpist than to get to play for the United Nations Commission on Status of the Women. So I said, oh my gosh, like literally you are filling a bucket list here. And so that did happen. And Erica said, but there's one other caveat. and that is we would like for you to also gift back to Pathways to Peace to be on the Archives Committee. Well, the Archives Committee is really about 40 years of history. And so Erica and I met and we brainstormed and we talked about all of the ideas that we had to create this archive. And then dear Avon Madison ascended, and that really changed the Archive Committee quite significantly. And about 4 months after Avon passed, Tez and I got together and she delivered 10 banker's boxes of Avon's files that then honored my living room. And so then I spent the next 6 months or so literally in sacred space every day to go through Avon's beautiful work. And it wasn't just Avon, it was Joni, it was David, it was Tez, it was many of you that are on this call, and many of you that will be listening to this call later. What happened in those 6 months of going through those files was a deep reverence that I saw intimately Pathways to Peace, beautiful history of connections, incredible relationships, and an expression of where peace is at currently and where we want to go. And I believe this call today is that pivot from the archives to what's next. As I have listened to each and every speaker this morning, the word that comes to me is expansive. And I just see so much expansion, and I see Pathways to Peace as being on that cusp of incredible movement forward. And Marilyn King, I have been seeing your social post of recent where you've been saying in such a love voice, there are more of us now that want peace than what want the other word. And I think that's what we're bringing forth. That's what Pathways to Peace and connecting to the unitive movement, Peace on Earth by 2030, Love Pods, working with the girls in Guinea, and any other project that's going on. That's what we're about. That's what Pathways to Peace is moving forward with. I want to finish with a vision, or actually it was a download that came in about a week ago. And when I get a download, it comes into my right ear, and I believe it's because the harp sits on my right shoulder. The melody note plays with the right hand. And this download was, and this is really connected to yesterday morning's opening ceremony, which was, let's connect into our hearts. And the download said you need to take it one step further. And it's bringing love into your heart. And then that love expands through your shoulder girdle, down your arms, and into your hands. And when you play from that place of love. Play from that place of love. And so I want to use this as an invitation that your hands are always a vehicle for love. Whether it's you're writing that social media post, whether it's you're letting people know about the beautiful Peace on Earth game, whether it's about building a peace pole, whether it's about dialing the telephone for your mother. It's a hand activity that comes from love. And with that, I want to play the final song for this gathering, which is Dona Nobis Pacem. And I know Dona Nobis Pacem has very special meaning to Joni. And yesterday when I played at the end of the opening ceremony, I really honored Avon. And today I want to bookend this honoring Joni and her beautiful, beautiful heart, along with David and Marilyn and so many others that have really held the sacred container of Pathways to Peace all of these years. Played from love, Dona Nobis Pacem, which is translated, grant us peace. Grant us peace.
And we now go forth, working together, bringing peace to our planet. And so it is. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.